spoke a little bit of the conditioning of whiteness. Okay, so can you talk a little bit about how whiteness affects people of color or non-white people negatively? And I know this is such a broad question, but I was hoping we could kind of each find some kind of more specific answers to that question, just kind of illustrated for the sake of the people who are here this evening. How whiteness affects people of color in a negative way.
I guess I'll start because I haven't started yet. So many ways, but I'll just say, like, working in a charter school in DC and the ways that a lot of the Black and Latinx students were treated. And I mean, I had to stop eating lunch in the lunchroom because I was tired of white women teachers like bitching about students, you know, and things that are said. And just, I mean, after the Trayvon Martin verdict, a Black woman teacher told me that, you know, she was Monday morning and she broke down in tears, and a white teacher hugged her and said, "I'm so sorry, but you need to be professional." And it's so, I mean, there are so many different circumstances for how whiteness shows up, but to me, that's one.
So that sounds like an instance where that woman is kind of using her whiteness to sort of mute or silence the pain she's experiencing from living with her Blackness, and kind of making it so it's not really acknowledged or accepted. Okay.
Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes. I think Kerwin, the poet, yes, in his poem talked about like when a white woman cries and when a Black woman cries. And I think the way this shows itself out in schools is simply that white kids are allowed to be kids, and they're allowed to make mistakes and be innocent, and make a ton of mistakes in the world and just be free to wake up the next day and keep going. But unfortunately, the way whiteness plays itself out in schools for kids of color is that we wear a scarlet letter the moment something happens, right? And so like Black boys become criminalized and get pushed out of schools. Kids of color, young women of color become criminalized, get pushed out of schools. And that's the reality of what happens often in schools. So I think that's how it plays out in the field of education.
Yeah. It's such a big question. It's an existential question. I feel like my entire life and the lives of people I care about are just white supremacy is just so pervasive. There's not a moment, a breath, a movement that is not impacted by it. And I can't say that's positive. It simply is. So, you know, I am grateful that we started the night out with poetry, because I think poetry is one of the few ways to penetrate that kind of reality of being surveilled, constrained, suffocated in that way, and just in every decision you make or don't make, the double binds you constantly find yourself in, life-threatening moments constantly, and you know, for me, I grew up in a white suburb most of my life, and what was very weird about the experience is that I didn't understand how, even with a family that was very kind of centered on Blackness, how similar to assimilation, but like the disillusionment that comes, the dislocation that comes, it was so disorienting for me to actually move back into DC and to move among people who recognized my hair, who maintained eye contact with me, to acknowledge me. So again, for me, it's always connected to the everyday experiences that we have. And I'm grateful we're talking about things a little more specifically. And this one is just so pervasive. I think that's the way to only begin to describe it.
Okay, thank you very much.